theme song for the Gear Podcast. Welcome to the Gear Podcast, everybody. My name's Troy Nababan.
My name is Leon Todd. Thank you for tuning in again. This week's video is just the two of us. Troy, it feels a bit back to basics, doesn't it? We've had quite a run of awesome guests over the last couple of weeks, which if you haven't checked out the episodes we've done recently, do yourself a favor, go and have a listen. There's lots of great insights and things to learn. But mate, I want to know how you're going. You were out in Kalgoorlie last week, right?
I was. You want first tangent of the day? Ready? Because you said that, you know, you did your little intro thing there, and I'm like, yep, the boys are back in town. I played the boys are back in town in Kalgoorlie on the weekend. I finally learnt what the chords were and played it instead of just like, you know, bumming me way through the busting me way through until I get it right. So no, mate, I was in Kalgoorlie. Played a couple of gigs, 3 nights. Used my Mesa Boogie stiletto, which was awesome to play a 100-watt head at a gig. I haven't done that in. So I reckon the last time I used a proper like head was when I did that support show for you guys in like 2016.
Wow, you played the Splawn at that one, hey?
Played the Splawn, yeah. So no, that was pretty good, man. And otherwise, I'm just kind of back to life, spending lots of money on equipment, and yeah, trying to keep out of trouble. What about you, mate?
It kind of sounds the same right here. Just, you know, acquiring things because people we talk to recommend them.
Oh, man.
Which is just the way to go, right?
Can I tell you, so friend of the channel, Michael Torren, and I told him I'd shout him out on this as well, so he knows it's coming. He messaged me about a week ago, and he found the Mesa Boogie revolver that...
he found one.
Yeah, that Nick was talking about. And he sent me a picture of it. He's like, oh, and... Actually, for a split second, I was like, wait, didn't you have one? Oh, no, wrong guest.
Yeah.
But he found one. And so he's like, should I buy this? And I was like, what are you asking me for? But just do it. Yeah. You know you're going to buy it. That's what I was thinking. But I think I might probably said that to him as well. So anyway, he sent me a message only about 30 minutes ago. He's like, you know, it's on its way. I'm like, yes. Sweet. And then 5 minutes after that, he sent me a screenshot because apparently the seller had already sold it and forgot to remove the ad. So I was like, oh, no. So
there is no bigger dog act in the world of selling gear than that.
Yeah, so the hunt continues for him. But as he said, I mean, it's all because of us talking about it. And, mate, you've been an influencer for a long time. Here I am. I'm just dipping my toe in the water. Like,
mate, where's your Sweetwater affiliate link? It's in the video description.
So, yeah, man, that's I can't even remember how we got on that. What else has been happening with you? So you've been playing some gigs. We got a gig this weekend.
Yeah, we do. Friday night. That'll be fun. Bit of a cooey rock. What has been happening?
You been playing much? You've been gigging much?
Not really. I've had a couple of weeks with no gigs, which has been really, really nice. So, yeah, just hanging out here, playing guitar, going to the gym, trying not to hurt myself in the gym and impede my playing progress. Just making max gains, mate, as you can clearly see.
Tell me and tell everybody else that's listening to this. It's Friday night. Just close your eyes. Just put your mind back to Friday night. Leon Todd, no gig. Saturday night, no gig. What are you doing?
I'm sitting here with the lights off in my chair, rocking back and forth, foaming at the mouth. That's how I spend my time when I'm not doing these things. Hang on, there's no praise. What's happening? No, cooking. I like cooking. Yep. Yeah, I like having that time to, you know, you cook a succulent meal on a Friday night or something.
Chinese meal. Are you watching anything on the television?
Home Improvement.
Have you been watching it on Disney? That's up now, right?
Yeah. Well, Elspeth's mostly been watching it, but yeah, it's the watching it as an adult obviously is a very different experience, and
Pam Anderson,
the cultural man, wild, right?
Before she was
JTT.
Yep. Remember that movie Man of the House?
Yes.
I feel like if our friend Ben Wilson ever listens to this, he'll just he'll spit out whatever he's chewing at the time. Those crisps that he likes eating so much.
Spit out the Monster Munch. He'll be loving it. But yeah, other than that, I've been pretty busy. There's a lot of new products coming out this month that I've been doing stuff for. So by the time this video comes out, hopefully some, if not most of them, will have been launched so people actually know what they are. But yeah, that's been good. It's just been nice to have that, I won't say distraction, just a change of pace. And I mean, Elspeth became a citizen as well. So got to go to the citizenship ceremony and eat some lamingtons and
Spetho,
stuff like that.
well done. You made it.
You gone done being Australian. So that's kind of, that was nice. And then, yeah, mate, just buying gear because, again, we talk to people and they're like, oh, here's, you know, like the revolver thing, or, you know, speaking to Warren on the last podcast. So this is my segue because I'm going to start talking about it. You know, he recommended the EHX Super Ego.
Oh, yeah.
So I reckon within 15 minutes of that conversation, I ordered one. I found one on eBay.
You
arrived.
Looked it up as we were doing the episode.
Yeah. And I just found one for, you know, there's nothing better than looking at what something sells for retail and seeing it for like half that price on eBay and just being like, well, it's going to happen. So I did that. It just arrived. Again, hopefully I'll have a video with it up by the time this comes out. If not, look out for it. But it, you know, it does the freeze thing and it resynthesizes chords. It's very cool. It's a very, very enjoyable thing to just have sitting around here. I've got a little board with a like an H90 and a U8 Golden on it.
Yep.
And yeah, I just slapped it on there and it's great.
Hey, let me
play drones.
Let me ask you a question, right? I hope this is okay to ask. When you're, oh man, I just got a message, a reminder to pay my electricity bill. Whoopsie. A little bigger than I
Perfect timing.
Yeah, perfect timing. From Synergy, different Synergy.
Yeah, there you go.
From the apps. So, okay, when you get a piece of gear, like how often would you just go and watch another YouTube video of that piece of gear before you record a thing about it? Or do you just like do you like to go in fresh? Do you have a particular opinion or way you like to work through that?
Yeah.
So okay,
pretty
like
interesting.
I
try
like like we with Warren, like he sort of demonstrated a couple of things on that already before we, you know, obviously you'll have that somewhere in the back of your brain. And something like a distortion pedal, like I guess it's pretty straightforward, but you know, then there's other products like Fractal, like you're putting out content on a Fractal, so that's like you're inventing things. You're influencing people to spend money.
Exactly. It depends. Like something like the Super Ego, obviously, if someone's like, here's how I use it, it's sick, then I'd probably just blaze away. And, you know, like it's a new piece of gear, so you play with it and probably read the manual half the time. Yep. Other times, stuff's pretty self-explanatory.
Well, it's funny because, like, do you remember, I'll just sorry to cut you off, but like, I remember when that Synergy 2C Plus module came out and it was like a bunch of demos came out on it and a bunch of demos kind of sucked. But yours was pretty good. And even like Fryette, I watched a video of him discussing it and he praised like your videos and he praised a couple of others. But I think a lot of people didn't understand how the module worked. So it's almost like if they'd either A, read the manual, B, like done some research on it beforehand, they probably would have got a better result like through the video. And I don't know, it's like, I guess it's hard to know, like, because then if everyone's watching everyone's videos, it ends up being the exact same thing and pulling the same times.
I do try to avoid that if it's a newish thing. And obviously, if I get sent something to demo and it's not out and it's embargoed, well, then you're kind of flying solo. And I feel like, and that's what we try to do here, it's like you're contextualizing gear and there's, you know, someone's like, hey, this is, you might get sent a pedal and it's like, hey, it's a Silver Jubilee circuit in a discrete overdrive pedal or something. So you're like, okay, cool. You know, who used Silver Jubilees / Alex Lifeson? You know, I'll look up if it's something trying to recreate a classic piece of gear. I'll look up who used it and I might write a little track or something like that in that style. And I'll normally pick the thing that I think people would want to hear, but then most of the time it's just, I'm just going to play with it and figure it out, unless it's a really specific thing. Like the Super Ego does the drone thing. So normally for me, I'm like, well, how does this work? I want to know about it. And, you know, you end up doing some reading. But yeah, I mean, there's very few people I would, if there was a piece of gear that I got, and I knew they had a video on it that I would go and watch. So, and people I would consider like experts at using the thing. So like, say like the HX Stomp, you know, there's a lot of content out there for that. But I know John Cordy has one. I know he's a great player and has really good presets. So I just go and watch like 3 Cordy videos and be like, cool. Didn't know it could do that. I'm just going to go and do my thing with it now. So there's that, or like if Michael Nielsen's got a video with a particular amp or something, it's like, yeah, I'll definitely watch that and just like, it's nice to have that initial vibe from it.
Yep.
And sometimes that's really, really helpful. Other times it's just kind of like, well, they're reading and not the people I've just mentioned. Sometimes you go and watch a video and you're just like, cool, it's someone playing guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get it. And then it's not until you get your hands on it where you're like, oh, this has a few unique things. I'd try to at least lean into the unique features or something, because how many Tube Screamer derivatives are there out there? Or like how many things try to sound like a Boss chorus? There's got to be something that differentiates it.
Yep. Gotcha. Cool. That's interesting. I don't think I've ever asked you that before. So it's good for me to get the question out.
I mean, there's something coming out. Well, it'll be out by the time this goes out. That
the new Fender Les Paul.
Yeah, exactly. Let's call it the new Fender Les Paul. But the thing that it does would work for various styles, but because a lot of the stuff that I do on my channel is rock metal oriented, I went for a totally different style. Like I tried to write a little like thing that, to me, it sounds like The Cure, but it probably sounds nothing like The Cure, but it's that kind of, so, I'll go and listen to if there's a particular piece of gear and it's like, oh, it's got this thing in it, and that thing was used by a classic band. Sometimes you just go and listen to that band. You're like, okay, I know that it's a Boss flanger for all these modulation sounds. Cool. I'm going to try and like learn some of these songs. So you kind of use it as an opportunity to go and, there's bands I've never really listened to that use stuff. You can go and listen to some new music. You can learn some new parts or something. So it's a nice opportunity to do that too. And other times it's just like, it's so obvious that you're like, yeah, okay. People want to hear the pitch D tune. Let's go.
Yep. Awesome. Well, yeah, we did say this, right? Like today we're talking about gear that we've recently acquired. So yours is first the Super Ego. So you haven't opened it yet. That's it's still sitting in the box.
No, it's on my pedal board. I've just been playing with it.
Sorry, my bad.
It does. It works really, really well.
Right.
So yeah, that'll be something that there's a video about. I got a way huge Super Puss as well.
Yeah, you do.
Hey, exactly. But I got that literally because I just like George Trips, and obviously, I now have a Swollen Pickle and a Super Puss.
Yeah,
so,
you do, mate.
It's a very modern pedal board, put it that way.
Yep.
Can I say that? People are going to get that this is sarcasm and humor. Probably not. I'm out of the building. Nevertheless, analog delay, plenty of those around, but it has this thing on it called chase mode, where because it's got tap tempo and different subdivisions, it will literally cycle through the subdivisions in a particular order.
Oh, okay.
But because it's an analog delay, you get the like time stretch
sort of.
So it ends up sounding like a pitch sequencer.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting, and it sounds really good. It's it's got modulation, it's got subdivisions, kind of deluxe Memory Man style, but way better built than anything Electro Harmonix.
Right. Ouch.
Well,
No, I'm kidding.
I don't think this is really an industry secret. A lot of especially their older pedals are, you see them held together with gaffer tape and stuff like that. It's
I thought that's how they came from the factory.
Yeah, sometimes
You want to even have a grungy. You want to get your Billy Corgan style, big muff sounds. You got to have the special gaffer tape. It has to be Nashua gaffer tape.
It's the perfect type of gaffer tape to keep your head hairless.
Yeah, that's what he uses to wax it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you reckon Billy Corgan's got any hair? Like that he shaves it to stay bald, or he's completely just got nothing on up the top there? You ever thought about
does he wake up Billy Corgan, or does he have to become Billy Corgan during the day? Does he just go, he starts Lex Luthor and finishes Lex Luthor?
You and I like having the amount of hair that we have is, these are hopefully problems we never have to deal with. No disrespect to bald people, but it's something you got to think about. I mean, like I haven't shaved in about 4 weeks, and this is how much hair grows on my face. So I can get away with just shaving like once a month, once every 2 months, and that's fine. I can't imagine because like for you, like if you didn't have a beard and you want to say, you'd have to shave every day, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember Guido Hatzis? What did those tapes ever circulate your school?
Hang on. I know that name. What was
he was a radio guy in, I think, Melbourne, So his thing was sort of like, you know, a Greek Australian or Italian Australian who would just prank call people. And he'd put on the, mate, I'm so hairy, I have hairs on my hairs.
Did he have a show on SBS or something back in the early 2000s? I feel like I recognize, or he might have been a guest on something. I don't know.
He might have been a guest, but I just remember like 2001, 2002, a friend burnt the CD for me, and it was just and it was like, it was radio, so it was relatively tame. Like it was nothing on what Howard Stern was doing.
Oh yeah.
You know, but it was outrageous for Australia. But I always remember that one thing where he's like, yeah, I'm so hairy, I've got hair on my hair. So that's me, basically.
Yep.
So it's interesting. Back to the point is, I always just feel like, you know, Joe Satriani, he did the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, his hair started to just fall out, so he just went full Corgan.
Yep.
Or go full Halford. You know, just
full Jeff Tate.
Or Jeff Tate. Exactly. Just lean into it.
Jeff
if it's
Tate
going, it's going.
Beautiful head of hair. Like, you watch that Silent Lucidity music video, it's yeah. But look, these things happen. You know, no disrespect, no judgment as well. I don't mean to sound. I probably sound very judgy. I don't mean that. But
no, anyone who can rock the Chrome Dome, I 100% respect. Just that episode of Seinfeld where Elaine has a boyfriend who shaves his head.
Yep.
They're like, that's why I've never shaved my head, because just maximize it. While you've got it, maximize it. And if it starts going, then get rid of it.
How far in your life have you gone down the thought of, you know what, I'm cutting my hair short?
Obviously not far enough, because I've had long hair basically my whole life. But there's times, normally in summer, where I'm just like, this is just getting too much to deal with.
Man, once in a while I think about it too. It's I reckon it's every 2 years, and I get really close. It's just a moment of, you know what, I need to change, but it's the only thing that I have going for me. You know, it's the only reason I got long hair. You know, it's an automatic statement of like, oh, this guy probably plays rock music. We better give him a gig.
I always just think though, it's like, if I complain about having to wash my hair once a week, you know, then I'm just going to replace that with having to like do something with my hair every day.
Yeah.
If it's short.
Go to get a haircut. That's not expensive. I'm sorry. That is it's not cheap.
Yeah.
Like, imagine how much money you've saved. You could put that into new guitar pedals.
Exactly. Like the
your
Super Ego and Super Puss.
That for some people is like 3 weeks budget of haircuts. Like, think about it like that.
Mate, and we're only talking about the hair on their head as well, you know. Modern men these days, you know, if you don't have a Manscaped sponsorship, you're eating into the budget even further, taking
Speaking
care of that.
Which, Manscaped, where are you, mate?
Yeah, where they at?
But anyway, sorry, well, that's enough tangents. People have come to hear some talk about some equipment.
Just one thing as well, Troy. Mm-hmm. You know, when you watch a podcast and it's like two dudes and they're talking about what their steroid cycle is, and they're both holding SM7s like this the whole time, and like, you know, my bro.
Yep.
I saw something and that was happening. I was just like, why?
Did I tell you, last tangent, I think I told you this, but when I was in LA in like 2019, I did a podcast, and I helped some friends like do some music for their podcast, and when I was in town they invited me on. But they had 3 people in the pod, and they had a spare mic, which is the one I used, so person number 4, but they didn't have a stand for it. So I'm like, oh, that's fine, I'll just hold it. And it was I don't have an equivalent mic here, but I'll try and hold something that is the same. So, okay, here's my sunglasses, my pink sunglasses. It was a side address microphone. You know what that means, Leon? It means that you talk into it from the side. An SM57 or a 58, you would go in the front, but this is a condenser mic, so you go in from the side. And it didn't have a stand, and it, you know, you get finger noise from it. So I didn't want to hold the mic itself, so I held the shock mount. And I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I'll hold it from the little bit that would clip onto the mic stand, or like screw into the mic stand. So no problem. So me at this point doing audio for like 15 years, I know what this is. I can make this happen, no sweat. And I sat there ready to record, and these 3 people stared at me like I was some sort of alien. And I remember the comment that one guy's like, that's an interesting way of holding your mic, man. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you know, you're supposed to hold it like this. And I said, well, no, it's a condenser mic. It's side addressed. You have to hold it like this. And shock mount, da da da, and they kind of like, oh, this guy kind of know what's going on. I'm like, 15 years of doing audio, but anyway, one of the guys that was on this podcast, I've seen him do other video podcasts since then, and now every mic I see him use, it's sideways, even when it's not a side address microphone. So I may have ruined that person's life and podcast.
That's amazing.
Since then. So anyway, moving on. I'm really sorry for the tangents, everybody. I'm actually not that sorry because this is our podcast, and if you complain about it, tough titties. Leon, would you like to hear about some stuff that I've acquired recently, mate?
Troy, I am very, very curious. I will just say, though, obviously the other thing I got recently, and I've done some videos with it, is a Switchblade, thanks to Charles Scott, friend of the podcast. That thing is awesome. And I was talking to my friend Matt Picone 2 nights ago, and we just kind of chatting about a few things, and Matt goes, yeah, I worked with them for years. I built their website, and we were looking at the website. It's basically the same website they've had since 1999 that I built. So
that's so funny.
Talk about return on investment.
And I mean, I think we may have mentioned this on the pod, but you bought one, and then I saw one up for sale with in the description on the Facebook ad, as used by Leon Todd. So talk about winning friends and influencing people.
Exactly. But tell us about, mate,
you've
done some re-rigging and you've had stuff serviced and like the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. So you know what happens?
Give us it all.
What's happened the last couple of years is come August, I tend to have a lot more work on. I'm not really sure why, but I usually get quite busy in September, and I've got a lot of gigs. So I'm not necessarily just flush with cash, but I feel like, I've got a little bit there that I can go and do some stuff with. So to start with, I'll tell you some of the fun stuff. So I bought a new amp. I got one new amp, which is this guy right here. I've got the manual. The Kusha Evil Robot. This is the east, what do they call it? The far east version of it.
Right.
The black one. So I picked that up. I'd been looking at it because it was listed in like June for a pretty reasonable price. And I was like, oh man, I'd love to get that, but it's just, I don't need it at combo at the moment. I'll just let it go. And then 2 weeks ago, I was driving home and I thought, it'd be cool to have a combo. And then I thought, I wonder if that Evil Robot's still there. And it was, 2.5, 3 months later. So I messaged the guy and it still was. And yeah, I got it for a pretty reasonable price. Went around and picked it up. So that's awesome. That's currently sitting in the studio. And a couple of things with that amp. So, I mean, do you know much about that amp there, Uncle Leon?
You know what I know, Troy? Phil X.
Pretty much. I mean, I think he's like, there's a picture of him somewhere. Oh, there's a silhouette of him on the back of it playing the guitar.
There you go.
Which I put it on Instagram, like a picture of it, and I had a couple of people message me, friend of the show, Chris, like he messaged and said, oh, man, I remember watching those videos, those Fred Americana videos, and Phil was always playing that amp. So, basically what it is a sort of a reproduction of Phil's Tone Master Magnatone thing.
Right,
which I think is like an
cool.
accordion amp maybe originally. It's 1x12, 30 watts. The version that I have, being that it's the Chinese-made version or whatever, it's a little bit different. It's not like a complete clone of Phil's one. Phil's one is like hand-wired, all this sort of stuff. I think it costs quite a bit more. But the version I have, I think it's called the C30, but looking at the manual. It has 2 channels, so like a higher and a lower gain on a foot switch. And it has a master volume, which I'm pretty sure the other one doesn't have, and an effects loop as well. And some of those, I mean, you're not going to have an effects loop on an accordion amp, so that makes sense. But it's got a half power switch on it, but it's really cool. It's I think when I got it, I messaged you like the sort of gain. It's not going to give you ultra high gain, certainly not. Probably like an AC/DC style gain is a bit more where it's at. Partly, Leon, why we started maybe 10 minutes later than expected is because I got to the studio this morning and I had a couple of things to do, and right before getting my delicious coffee, I thought, I better just play that Evil Robot a little bit before
give it some.
Yeah, just to crank him up a bit and put my RC booster in front of it, because I've been thinking about that combination for the last few days. And
so, I mean, is it in the category of takes pedals well?
Yeah, like takes pedals well, but it's got a cool sound to it, like out of the box. It doesn't need pedals.
Cool.
It just like pushing it over the top with something is pretty cool. Yeah, probably the thing that I'm I don't know if I'm disappointed about it because I need to really play it a bit more. But I've noticed that rolling the volume back, it does darken up quite a bit, like more than I've noticed in other amps. So I mentioned like I played my Stiletto when I was in Kalgoorlie on the weekend. So that was awesome, 2-channel high gain sort of amp. I ran it on predominantly the cleaner channel I think it's called the crunch mode. So,
gotcha.
Like slight tangent too, because I think, I've basically told you everything about the Evil Robot, but slight tangent. Again, the Stiletto, I'm not sure if you looked into this when you borrowed mine and did a video about it, but like in typical Mesa Boogie fashion, you've got like 3 switches per channel and they all have slightly different, and they do really different things. So like on the, for the more gainy side of thing, you've got like a crunch channel, a crunch mode, a tight gain mode, and a fluid drive or something like that. I think those are what it's called. So basically, from what I can understand, the crunch mode is like a plexi sort of gain, like circuit-wise. When you go to the tight gain, it's more of a JCM 800 sort of thing. Right. And that's internally, like with the relays and stuff, like it's switching a bunch of stuff out. But like circuit-wise, that's pretty much what it's doing. And then the fluid drive is basically like a Mesa Boogie preamp section, like into a EL34 style like power amp section. So not quite like having a dual rectifier with a with EL34s in it. A little bit different, but close. So anyway, I thought that was really interesting because I've been watching Jason Headfirst videos and I'm just getting my head around things. I sort of wanted to know what these different modes were doing, and that seems to be sort of what it is. I think maybe those modes have a little bit more gain than stock, or maybe it's like the crunch channel's a bit more like a 2203 unmodded, and then the other one's a like modded 2203 sort of circuit. Anyway, but sorry, not long story short, long story. But I played pretty much on that like 2203, that plexi, whatever that crunch channel was. Just ran it hot and rolled the volume back, and it's like, man, that's all I need to do to play a gig. And
you don't need no pedals.
No, like I had. I didn't dial anything in before I left in the HX Stomp. Like I had that like there. But yeah, I just kind of ran with pretty much just the amp and used the other thing as a tuner. And that's enough. And that works for me, man. Like, I'm just, I'm not good at playing guitar and hitting pedals and singing. Like I can do 2 of those things and I can't do 3. Yeah, that's
you need the tactile feel of there's your volume control, more or less.
Yep. And with my, my Charvel, which just for gigging is such a great guitar for me, it's like plenty hot enough. It just kind of gives me the business. So anyway, for clean sounds, no problem. Roll the volume back on that in the neck pickup or that position 2 sort of thing, neck middle. And it feels really good. So on the Evil Robot, it was just a little darker than I was expecting it to be. And it might be because the Evil Robot, the like overall volume needs to be a little louder for it to open up a bit more. I'm not sure.
I see.
But like with, say, your Deluxe, I found that rolling back on that one still gave me a pretty nice, chimey, clean sound. So I'm gonna keep experimenting with it a little bit.
Keep at it.
But it's definitely
that's pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
But then the previous gigging rig, so you were using a Syn 30, and obviously using it a lot in the studio, right?
Yep.
But you can only load one module. So
correct.
Tell the people what you did, mate.
Well, because I'm a stupid idiot. No, I'm not a stupid idiot, but I am, but I'm not, but I am. I bought a Syn 2, so I've joined the Syn club. And I almost bought another Syn 2 as well because I have a couple of modules. I've got a couple of yours, and I've got a couple of spare rack spaces in my guitar rack over there. So anyway, got the Syn 2. Friend of the, actually, I don't think he listens to this, but friend of ours, Big Richo, lent me his Fryette 292 power amp.
I can see that in the rack back there.
With a V-Twin, Mesa Boogie V-Twin preamp as well. And that was his gigging rig. But he hasn't used it for a long time. So we caught up. This is, again, a roundabout story. We caught up about, he and I, maybe 9 months ago. Went and saw a wrestling show, which was sick.
As you do.
And we were just talking about amps and stuff. And he said, oh, look, I've got this power amp. I'm not really using it. If you want to borrow it, then take it. So, yeah, he came around and I bought him a coffee and he dropped off his rig. I mean, it took 9 months before we managed to hook up. But,
yeah.
With that, So it was the end of last year. I went through a bit of a power amp phase, post speaker phase. Yeah, that's right. It was in my power amp phase because I got the Sin 1, and I was just jamming that through I've used that through a couple of different things and liked it but not loved it. And some of the modules, man, like, I mean, because you've got the Sin 5050, so you've had a good power amp from like the get-go with that.
Yes.
I think I'm trying to remember which one I loaded up, like what I used as you know what it was? When I first got that Sin 1, I was just running it into the wall of sound. That was the main way I ran it.
It's not a bad way to do it.
No, and I've mentioned this before, I think, but if you have the 2 Notes wall of sound plugin and you're using a preamp with it, switch on the power amp section and just crank it all the way up. Like, to me, that makes a massive difference to those things. But it was cool, but it's not like a life-changing guitar sound.
Yeah.
So anyway, I ran it into like end of last year. Had a little Marshall combo here, the DSL one.
That's right.
40 watt. And I ran the Synergy into that, and I was like, man, this actually sounds really good. And it made the modules, of which the Deliverance and the the Ecstasy one that I had. No, just the Deliverance and maybe your 2C Plus one at the time. It made that sound so much like fuller and bigger, and just made it sound more like an amp. So anyway, did lots of research, ended up getting the Sin 30, gigged that, and that's really, really awesome. But I really wanted to try, because it's a 30 watt power amp with, I think, 6V6s in it. I really wanted to try something that had more grunt, more power in the EL34, 6L6, whatever category. And this has KT88s. So, and I'll say as well, I did try the Synergy into the effects loop of some amps as well, and I didn't love it. I tried it into
mixed
the Splawn.
Results.
Yeah, it was mixed. Like, it was not bad, but like into the Splawn, into your Soldano, actually, I tried that. Which I think, interestingly, we talked about it afterwards, where the effects loop is in relation to the tone stack. The tone, the bass, middle, treble actually had a lot more effects than I understood. But yeah, to be able to finally hear these modules like push air through this thing was like life-changing is certainly an overstatement, but it makes the system sound a lot more proper to me.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear it against your 5050. I think that'd be a really cool choice. Before I got my Sin 30, I was really keen to get a Fryette power station and use the power amp in that, because size and, you know, flexibility wise, I thought it'd be a really good option, but I just couldn't find one at the time. And now I have this power amp to use for a bit.
That's awesome,
which is really cool. And I mean, I hooked it up. It's now in my amp selector, so that's awesome. I've got it. It's all kind of firing over there. But one cool thing I did with this is I put one of my ADA MP1s into the effects loop of the Sin 1. So what that means is people talk about...
You got an extra channel.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can use a Synergy to add extra channels to an amp, but you can use an extra preamp to add channels to the Synergy. So effectively, when the Sin 2 is in bypass mode, it sends a signal to the ADA. And the cool thing about that is hearing that ADA through that Fryette power amp through a cabinet is like a significant difference. And like, you know, we've tried it. Like, we've tried the ADA through like my Marshall 9000 power amp, and that was cool. But this is like the business, man. Like, it's a lot better. It's like it's surprisingly better. And the ADA, man, it holds its own with these Synergy modules. You really kind of hear what the ADA sounds like, I think, in this.
Yeah,
in this
that's
context.
pretty cool, man. Like the fact that, I mean, I've always heard great things about those VHT Fryette power amps, and you know, I know Michael Nielsen's got that big purple one, and always just like, you know, it sounds like it's adding that robustness to the sound that
it's
that those things need.
It's funny, man. Like, because I remember I had that Carvin TS100 like power amp years ago.
The silver thing.
Yeah, which was like, it really was not very good. It just, I'm not sure if it was too clean, and maybe that was the thing, or it's just that, like, it's almost that bottom octave that this power amp is adding to it. It feels way more natural. So yeah, man, like, I'm really into it. And actually, last little thing on this rig, One thing about the Synergy system that I find like it's really useful, but it can be very easily misused, and that's the sag control.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
and it kind of drives me nuts a little bit when I watch people demo Synergy modules and they don't fuck with this, because I see it like all the way down sometimes. It says, you know, again, reading the manual, put the sag control to where it is kind of lighting up sometimes. Like that's when you know it's in the right spot. And it just adds that little bit of compression to it. If it's all the way up, it's too compressed. If it's all the way down, it's too dry sounding. But where like the sag control happens to be set at the moment is like the perfect level. And I'm sure I could get back to it. But on the Syn 1, I found a couple of modules, like it was so touchy, like so touchy, where within 1 millimeter it was too much or 1 millimeter it was too little. And on the Syn 30, it auto does the sag thing. Like there's a sensor in it, or so. I think it's a sensor, but
okay, yeah.
And that's that to me is a big advantage of the Synergy heads. And I believe that was in like the marketing material of the Synergy stuff 6 years ago when it first was announced. And I thought, man, that's great, because you know you're matching what the power amp is requiring of the preamp, or vice versa.
Makes a lot of sense.
In a much better way. So you got the sag control and you can do it yourself, but it's like it's another thing you got to twist. Anyway, this is just like it's set perfectly, and I really don't want to touch it, even though I should. I'm usually cool about touching anything. Equipment, like to be very specific.
But it's like the Boogie thing, right? You know, like a Mark series amp, like that, getting that tone stack just right. Sometimes you can just get thrown off, and it's such an interactive thing.
Yep.
It's like, ugh.
So anyway, that's like, how about you tell me some more stuff you've picked up? I've got some more stuff to talk about, but you go.
Yeah, I better make sure there's not so much the thing that I picked up, but my McCarty. Mm-hmm. I had Fishmans in it, and I like them. I like them a lot.
Yep.
But one of the pots was just thrashed out, so I was like, I'll change the pots. Then when I pulled them out, I was like, do I want to do this, or do I want to try some different pickups?
You had 1 meg pots in that, right?
Not with the Fishmans.
Oh, okay.
No, that was a while ago when I had the Seth Lovers in here. So,
okay.
And the Seth Lovers came out of one of my Hamers, and they're now back in the Hamer, and the pickups that it's a long story. Anyway, 59 in the neck, and I've got this. I had a Sir Doug Aldrich that I bought on eBay years ago that I'd never put in anything. So I put it in here. I pulled the cover off, and it's double cream underneath. So, and I wired it, and I did the worst wiring job I've ever done in my life.
Nice.
But luckily, one of my students is an absolute gun with electronics, and I was complaining to them about it, and they were like, I'll just take the guitar for a week, and they wired it up for me. So it's awesome. And I really like this Doug Aldrich pickup in here. It's kind of like got a little bit more of that like thick hot rod Les Paul thing. So that's really, really cool. I haven't been playing it a lot, but it's there. And we've got some gigs coming up end of this month, and October. I might pull it out and fire it up, because I forget how comfortable that guitar is to play.
Yeah, that's a great guitar, man. I really wanted a McCarty for a while because of your one.
Well, it's funny because obviously I've been playing the DGT heaps, but the DGT has a slightly like slimmer neck.
Oh, okay.
And the McCarty's like wider. Yeah, it actually suits me pretty well. I'm pretty used to it. Yep. So yeah, they're both awesome, absolutely awesome. What else has been coming through? I feel like it's that time of year as well, where it's like I've been selling a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I've seen that come up for sale.
In anticipation of just like, I know I'm probably going to buy more stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the gear merry-go-round goes on.
Well, I was disappointed to see you sell the PCM 81, but also completely understanding of it. Only disappointed because I borrowed it and used it on something, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, great unit. Sold it to somebody in Melbourne, so hopefully they're super stoked with it. But I bought one of Clifton Wright's PCM 70s because Clifton had 3, and was selling, like, basically sorted me out where he kind of like took some of it, because it's got like encoders and buttons on it. And I think the 3 units he had, none of them were mint, but he just kind of like compiled them all into one mint one. So I bought that a while ago, and it does less stuff than the 81, but the things that I like about it, I like slightly more. Like basically there's the circular delays patch, there's the rich plate reverb, there's the tunnel reverb, there's a tiled room. That's all I use that for when I use it. So it basically gets me square on that. Like I bought that and I was like, okay, if I like it, I'll eventually move the 81 on. So yeah, that one has moved onto greener pastures. There are a few other things as well. That I just kind of got rid of. There was a guy who hit me up because he wanted to sell one of his guitars and was like, oh, do you want to make an offer for it? And the offer I made him was pretty insulting. So he rightly was like, oh, I'll sell it on Gumtree. But then he came back to me and was like, oh, would you do this? And I was like, and he was like, okay, maybe I'll sell it. So there was just like a lot of back and forth with that. And I was finally like, okay, yeah, you got a deal. Let's do this. I've flipped some gear. He was like, oh, I think someone's coming to buy it. So I hope he gets his money worth for it.
What guitar is it?
Is a newer Explorer.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. And, I think it's one of those situations where, like, he needs to get rid of a bunch of his gear for various reasons.
And you were trying to be Bill Todd about it.
Yeah, basically. So, if it works, it works. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Yep. I hope he kind of flips the guitar for a decent price. I mean, he's loaned me some gear in the past, which has been really, really nice. So, so that's something that didn't happen. And what else? So, the DGT SEs that are out?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, we're recording this in the middle of September. I think there's meant to be a shipment coming in. So I'm going to try snag a gold top one.
Awesome.
Which by the time this comes out, I may or may not have it. But yeah, I'm pretty keen to I played one for about 3 minutes at the Melbourne Guitar Show and it was really, really good. Like it felt like the one I've got. So I think that might be the next acquisition and just thrash it and use it for gigs.
Yeah, what are they
Because why
worth?
not? What are they in Australia? I think they're probably about $1,500 Australian, which is pretty good considering the spec and just considering how expensive everything is now. I'm sure 5 years ago they would have been 2/3 of that price.
The funny thing, man, I got that PRS, the 245 SE.
Yeah, you got that for a real steal.
I paid $360 Australian for that.
Wow.
And then I replaced like everything in it just about over the course of owning it.
Yeah.
But they had the same guitar at JB Hi-Fi, right? Because which
of all places,
for those of you that are not Australian, but just a shop where you go buy your CDs and your
Best Buy. It's Best Buy.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is now. But they had one in the shop. It just looks like the strings were so rusty and the fretboard looks so like dry. But at the time that I had mine, that was for sale for like maybe $850 Australian. And I was like, man, I got a pretty good score on that guitar. Now those ones, like secondhand, you can't get them. Like secondhand, you can't find them for less than $1,000.
Yeah, that's
so
wild.
It's gone
hey?
up. But do you know what I remembered is like literally 20 years ago, because I loved Incubus so much and Incubus played PRS guitars. So obviously I have to own a PRS guitar, but I have no money. So they had, this is early, the Tremontis, like the SE Tremontis and the SE Santanas. Like they were the first like lower range that they released. And I was desperate to get one of those. And they were more affordable. But even back then, and again, this is 2003-ish, 2004, they were $1,700. I remember that. Like a USA one was like in the $5,000 range, like new, and secondhand was $1,700. And that's the same now. Like those prices haven't changed.
Yeah, that's kind of wild to think about how. I mean, obviously they dipped down for a while as the Aussie dollar got better, but everything else considered, it's kind of just flipped back up the other way. Hey, that's wild.
Yeah,
I mean, at the same time, like some of the SEs are like great guitars now, like the Bernie Marsden one, and there's the Zach Myers one.
Man, I'd love to play one of those. They look really cool. I mean, I've used my SE one so much, and I like abused my SE one. Like that one, I played that on the roof for years because it was reliable. It was, I mean, it sounded awesome. But also, I like guitars that you can thrash a bit and not feel bad about it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Like that guitar is legitimately rusted from being in the rain, like me playing it in the rain. But
that's rock and roll, man.
Yeah, but it's cool, man. Like I don't have a problem with rust. I don't mind it. I'm not gonna. It's not gonna be sold. Like there's a lot of stuff that I buy without the intention of selling it. To me, guitars, very few guitars come into my possession and then leave again. because I'm trying to fill out a collection. It's a bit of a lifelong sort of process. Same as amplifiers, there's a couple that may come or go, but I'm pretty certain of everything I have at the moment. To be honest, the only one that's sort of on the chopping block is that Sin 30, which I love it. It's so good, but it's just depending on what I choose to do for a gigging rig in the future, I may decide to move it on.
So
that
the
I
thing
can
is
go buy
as well,
another one. Some of this stuff, my Marshall, which I'll talk about in a second, I can't just go and buy that at any time. I can't go buy a pink Mesa Boogie dual rectifier at any time. So they'll just stay. And even the Splawn, I've thought about getting rid of that so many times because either I love it or I fucking hate it. But good luck trying to find one of those in Australia for a decent price. It's just not going to happen.
Exactly. There's the thing as well where sometimes you see a piece of gear and the price is too good to pass up. You're like, I don't need that thing, but for $500, I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then maybe at some point down the track, there's something else that you want, and you're like, you know what, that thing that I bought for $500 that I don't really use that I can live without, I'll flip that. I'll get the other thing. So there's that aspect to it. And then there's things that you buy thinking you're going to use it lots, and you kind of realize you hate it. And they're easy to sell.
You know what I don't do anymore, man, is I don't buy stuff with the intention that I'm going to sell it and flip it. I think I did that a little bit a few years ago, but I like to just, have stuff that is for me. Studio,
Unless it's crazy. Unless it's like, you're like, look, it's worth, the price that I'm paying for it will be worth 6 months of usage, and then I can do whatever I want with it. But nowadays there's not so many of those things around anymore.
Cool. So Leon, I got one question for you, mate.
What's that, mate?
Do you lick it a g'day?
There is a throwback to the glory of childhood in Perth.
I said that so many times, that week that you said that to me. So let's just leave it at that. Let's not say another word about it.
No more needs to be said. In terms of gear, mate, what else has there been? I mean, we can talk about non-gear things because we both went to a pretty cool show last week, right?
Yeah, well, look, I've got some stuff back. Do you want to talk about some of that?
Yeah.
Let me talk about... I'll talk about some... Well, you know what? I do have some other... I got some boring stuff and I got some cool stuff. So let me just quickly run through the boring stuff. So I have over here... This is my pedal board, which thank you, James Lugo, for just doing this and then getting me thinking about it. But I've got a rolling rack for a pedal board.
That's awesome, man.
Which is really great because I had a lot of this stuff mounted in a rack that I would otherwise find it not difficult to do, to use. But man, having pedals right here to change and twist knobs and stuff, it's so much better. I'm borrowing this Strymon Mobius of a friend of mine and his El Capistan as well, Capistan. So playing with those has been really great. But anyway, pedal board on a shelf. Awesome.
Good way to do it for the studio.
I just got a True Tone CS12 as well, reasonably cheap. So that's going to power that board. I haven't wired it all up yet because I haven't had time. So that's a couple of boring things. Man, so I'm actually really excited about this thing. I haven't told you this. It's one of the most boring things I'll ever buy. But it makes me so happy. So Leon, let me just describe to you what I bought for 50 Australian dollars. A guy was selling a tuner on Facebook Marketplace, but not any tuner. It is a Korg wall mount tuner. It's about
mounted on the wall.
It's this big, I think, and so about the size of an A4 piece of paper, I think. And it has you can run it in a few different ways. It's got a microphone on it, so you can just run it like that. Or it also has a wireless sensor, so you can use it like a clip-on tuner.
Wow!
You can clip on a sensor, and then it sends it to the thingy.
That's cool.
But anyway, I was like, man, that's just going to be so much more useful to have on the wall than having the rack tuner. Because also that rack tuner, which I think that's Woolie's one, hey?
Probably, yeah.
The Korg one, singer from Leon's band there. I've had that here at the studio for a long time, but I think one of the number of where it shows you what the key of this or the note is, one of their little LED things is gone. So anyway, I'm super excited about that. That should be in the mail at the moment. I've also just last night ordered some new pots for my Les Paul.
Oh, great.
Because I want to try that. I'm sort of in the mood for some soldering. I bought some 500k pots because my Les Paul's got 300k pots in it, and I just want to see if I can get a little bit more top end out of it. So yeah, that's some boring stuff, man. But what's been really cool for me is I'm trying to go through and rather than acquire more new stuff, which is cool and fun and all, like actually having functional things at all that I already own.
Yeah,
it's probably
stuff
a bit
that
more
works.
useful. So top of the list, my I think I've probably talked about this already, but my Marshall, my 77 JMP went to Headfirst in Melbourne to get sorted out. Which
Sick.
yeah, Jason did a couple of mods to it. So firstly, the impedance selector on the back, he I guess removed it. So the 2 speaker jacks, there are like ones for 8 ohms, ones for 16 ohms, which is great for me. In terms of internally, he did the Jakey Lee mod to it. So just sort of like gets rid of, tightens the amp up a little bit and gives a bit more gain. And the gain aspect of it is on a switch as well. So you can flick it on or off, depending on the sound you want. And then he's also put diode clipping, like your Jose style clipping on it. So it sounds really good, man. Like I'm keen for you to hear it. It's yeah, it's just a sound that I really enjoy playing and I feel really comfortable with. Partly the reason I took that stiletto to that gig is because I was playing the Marshall and I was just sort of seeing if I could get them similar, and I could. I got them fairly close. Not identical, but like similar, very, very similar. And I was like, man, I don't want to take this Marshall to a gig. I'll take the stiletto instead. So really excited to have that guy back. And I think Jason's got a video of what he did to it coming out at some point, and I think I'm putting a little demo at the end of it too.
Sick.
So that's mad. I also got my pink rectifier there sorted out because, again, like I get influenced by the people we talk to as much as anybody else. And James Lugo, I watched a video of his dialing in his recto, and I thought, man, that sounds really good. I haven't really fired mine up for a little bit. And yeah, she was dead.
There you go.
Channel 2 and 3, no sound. So took that to get sorted out. Turns out needed new power tubes and needed to be biased as well. It was like excessively cold biased, I believe. So yeah, new power tubes and a biasing job, and that's back and sounds really good. I think it does sound a lot better than it did even when it was working. And I spent a little bit of time with that too, man. Like there's sounds I've got out of that I've been really happy with, and some that I've been left a bit sort of, I don't know if this is really working right. But yeah, I'm pretty stoked with where it's dialed in at the moment and what I got out of it. So there's a couple of sessions I've got coming up where I know that's going to be the amp to go for.
Yeah.
And then the other one that I got sorted out is I'm not sure if you can see it, but I've got a Cherrytone DC30 clone, which is that guy right there.
Under the blank space, under the pink recto.
That's the one. So that one has been out of commission for about 4 years.
Yeah,
because
basically since you got it.
Not since I got it. Like there was a period where it was usable. Like you remember we used it when we shot out all those amps for Chaos Divine when they did their album. That was part of the 23 that came in to be tested, and it performed pretty well. And they had actually used, and if we mentioned them before, but Chaos Divine, like great prog metal band from Perth, and on their second album, I think it was Human Connection, they used the Bad Cat. So not that they're the same amp, but like I think they're similar.
Similar lineage.
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, like this is a bit more voxy sounding, I suppose. But yeah, it was cool amp. So anyway, it's been blowing fuses. I tried just replacing all the power tubes recently, and that didn't help it. And finally, just bit the bullet and got it serviced. So sent it to Dave Fife, who's not too far from where my studio is.
That's cool.
Union Guitars in Perth here. And yeah, Dave sorted out really quick. So super stoked to have that guy back. Turned out to be a dead rectifier tube. And he replaced that. And
not something I would think to check.
No, and you know what? It's like I love getting in and trying to fix stuff, but valve amps still scare the shit out of me, and I don't have the required knowledge to dig in with a multimeter anyway and know what it is that I'm looking for. And it's way easier and way quicker to give it to someone that knows what's up. And yeah, I should have done that literally years and years ago. But you know what, Leon? I think you and I are similar in this regard, in that we generally have pretty good luck with stuff not breaking and dying. And when it does break and die, we just use something else that we have.
Yep. So that's 100% it.
Yeah, so I've been super reluctant. I've always been super reluctant to ever like pay somebody to fix something for me because I'm just too stingy to do that. And
then you do, and you're like, what's the matter with me? Why have I been spending my money on haircuts when I could be spending it on my amps?
Exactly. So anyway, it's I got that amp sorted out. I'm really happy with it. I've only had about 20 minutes to give it a blast. I'll probably play it a bit today if I've got the time. But I've been dialing up Matchless sounds in my HX Stomp recently and gigging with that, and it is really cool. Like that,
love and life.
Yeah, that clarity you get is really special. And I watched a video of a guy dialing it in, and because one thing about it is it's always been pretty bright. I thought, oh man, this is maybe people love this brightness about it. I liked the punch of it. That's the immediate like draw to it for me. Is it just feels like it really hits you in the face every time you play it. I was like, oh, it is a bit bright, but just one of those simple things that should have thought of it. The video, which the guy was like, yeah, turn the cut control all the way up so it takes all the top end off, and then just dial it back a little bit until you find the amount of top end that you like. It's like, of course. Like,
don't do it the other way. Because it will sound, you'll start bright and it will just be, no, I don't like it, duller. Yeah,
it's just, man.
Pro tips, ladies and gentlemen.
Like, yeah, it shouldn't be that hard, but I think like it's so deceiving where these knobs should be sometimes. You feel like, I just instinctively feel like everything should be at 5. And when it isn't like that, it's always, it's all the way down. Oh, it's all the way up. It's too much. I must be doing something wrong. But it's like...
And then on a Vox style tone stack as well, you crank the bass and the treble and like it scoops the mids.
Yeah.
And you turn them both down and it boosts the mid. Well, not that it boosts the mids, but because of the type of controls they are, the effect is a more mid-focused or a more mid-scooped sound. So yeah, you just got to know how to dial the particular piece of gear.
Yeah. And it's hard to have until you do it. I mean, it's hard to like have a collection and encyclopedic knowledge of how every amp should be. I mean, who's the Fractal? Is it Yek on the Fractal forums?
Yep.
That guy is amazing for just whatever he did to put a catalog together, like wiki. There's a wiki of it, right? Where
Fractal has a wiki, and there's an amp guide on there that's on the wiki that's just comprehensive.
Yeah.
And everything you ever need to know about how to dial in basically any amp.
But yeah, and you can apply that to Fractal, but you can apply that to other amps as well, where it's just so useful. I mean, Zen was sort of like that too, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. So, but then when you sit down and do it yourself, it is a different experience. And yeah, I feel a bit more comfortable with that amp and the Recto. Man, after all this time and owning this stuff and doing this stuff, I still, you got to like stop and just go back to the drawing board. And I'm kind of there at the moment with those amps and with a few other things. So that's been really cool. But anyway, to round that out, I've got my 5150 and my AC30 are both with Dave.
Awesome.
Because the 5150, when I bought it last year for like $700 Australian, the presence knob was completely off it, like snapped off. So he's replacing that, and he's just going to, have a quick look in the inside.
So the whole fleet has been serviced, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. And the AC30,
that's awesome.
Like that was just had a bum power preamp tube, which I replaced.
You've got the head version, hey?
Correct, yeah. Just the
head.
That's
cool.
I bought the head and the 4x12 about 15 years ago, or maybe less, 13 years ago. And when I bought it, it had a dodgy power amp tube. So I put 4 new power amp tubes in it, used it for some sessions, and then went through a phase of kind of like it wasn't working, and then it was working, and then it sounded like shit, and then I put a tube in it. And yeah, I used it for some stuff about a year ago, and it was cool. But it doesn't sound right at the moment. I don't think it does. It maybe I'm just imagining it, but I'll get it, like, it'll go to have a birthday and it'll sound the same, or it won't. To be honest, that's another one that's on the chopping block of, I'm sure I could find another AC30 very easily if I sold that one,
Yeah, and, it's going to overlap a little bit with what the Matchless clone's doing,
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, man, like, I think there's a lot of stuff, man. I've said it's been good to sort some stuff out. It's good to buy some other little pieces and just trying to make my job a bit easier. This month, next month, and in fact for the rest of the year is quite busy with, people coming through the studio. So, yeah, there's some stuff I want to try out and just trying to make it a bit more functional.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that feels like a pretty good place to jump off for today.
Oh, we could talk about something else really quick. Well,
Yeah. Just before we do that, we obviously saw Extreme and Living Colour.
Yes.
Give me your 4-sentence review of each band.
Living Colour was sick.
Yep.
Extreme were fine.
Yeah. Nuno was incredible. He's always incredible, but he carried the band a bit, didn't he?
I wouldn't say he carried the band. I would say he certainly carried
Carried the show.
for one person that didn't have a very good night, but we'll just put that down to it being a long tour or like first gig back. But seeing it, you didn't come to Extreme the last time they were in Perth, hey?
No, I was away.
Yeah. So when they came in 2018, I think it was, or 19, it was unreal. It was Extreme and Mr. Big, and they played they played Metros. So what is that? More of a big club?
More of a club, big club, yeah.
And that was amazing. Like, amazing gig. And they blew Mr. Big out of the water. Like, it was no contest. But
Wow.
I thought in a seated venue, like in a theater where we saw them, it was a little bit... It was fine. It wasn't bad. It just didn't really blow me away. I'm going to be a bit of a dickhead, just personal opinion, because I love what Gary does as a frontman. He's like so charismatic, but I kind of feel like that style of performing when you're playing like drop D, like heavier sort of riffs, it doesn't like compute in the same sort of way.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I still love his voice and I love the way he performs, but it was a little too much. I didn't hate it, but again, it just, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'll say this as well. Like, Nuno's guitar sound live, it's actually the best guitar sound I've heard live for a long time. Mm-hmm. It was just like big and thick sounding, and you know, like it was a guitar sound. Like, I just spent the whole night wanting to play it myself because you're just like, whoa, dude, that sounds great.
Probably DSL as well, right?
Yeah, probably. I loved his flanger sound as well, like whatever he's using for in the few bits, like in Change.
I'm pretty sure he just has like a Boss GT 1000 or something, man.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Nothing too fancy, but sorry.
It sounded, he sounded sick. The Living Colour, I think, obviously because they were set up in front of all the other stuff.
Yep.
Where I was, it was a bit washy at times, but I mean, Corey Glover was so good.
Oh man, it was incredible. Like his voice,
even
man.
When we opened for him, he was great, but like that night in particular was like, you know, it had that just kind of like church thing going on where it's like, man, this guy, like when he just put the microphone away and was just singing in the theater, it was like, I feel like they played the room really, really, really well.
Yep.
And I've seen Extreme live at a festival, and some of their stuff stopped working after 45 minutes. So I finally got to see the whole show, you know? So it was just like, it was really, really good. It was a good night.
Absolutely. If only there was a local support band, mate. That would have the only thing that would have made that gig better.
Yeah, well, apparently the word was if it wasn't a dual headliner, we were going to get the tap on the shoulder, which was nice to know. But it was also nice to just go and see a gig.
Yep.
You know, and just be like, cool, I don't have to try to load into a gig in Subiaco last minute.
What time did you leave? Like, I drove past you at the front. How long were you at the front for?
Yeah, we were there for another 20, 25 minutes.
Oh, that's not too bad. Because I was like, we're gone. I went with mate Darren, who went to Kalgoorlie with the next day. And so we had a 7-hour drive in front of us. And I was like, man, we are seeing this gig and fucking off straight away. Didn't say goodbye or hi to anyone, just like left. But I saw you standing in the corner as I drove past. I was like, Uncle Leon.
Yeah. I caught up. It was an excuse to catch up with everybody, basically. And there were a few people who watched the show who were there. So shout out to those people. It's nice to actually meet them.
All right.
And yeah.
Oh, well, I feel bad now. I should have... if there was any podcast listeners, I should have stuck around to say good day. But next time.
Mate, you got to do the big drive every now and then. And anyway, with that, I think we're going to say thank you to everybody for watching the show. We'll be back next week with another installment of the Gear Podcast. Be sure to tell your mates about it, like, subscribe, click the affiliate links, all that kind of crap. And be good to one another. We'll see you next time.
What's your favorite color, baby?